The days passed slowly on Hanel 7. Taiho tried to continue his normal life, fixing machines and helping customers, but everything was different now. There was a small blue shadow following him everywhere he went. Lumi had become his constant companion. She woke up when he woke up. She ate breakfast with him. She sat in the corner of his shop while he worked, watching his every move with those big silver eyes. At first, Taiho found this strange. He was used to being alone. He was used to silence. Having someone watch him all the time made him nervous, but slowly he began to get used to it. And then he began to enjoy it. Lumi asked questions constantly. She wanted to know everything. What was that tool called? How did that machine work? Why was this wire connected to that box? What made the lights turn on? Taiho answered every question. He showed her how engines worked. He explained the basic rules of electricity. He taught her the names of all his tools, and she remembered every single one. "You have a good memory," Taiho said one day, surprised. Lumi smiled shyly. "I had to remember a lot of things to survive on the cargo ship. Which boxes had food? Which areas were safe? When the workers would come and go." Taiho felt his heart twist. This little girl had been through so much. She had survived things that would have killed most adults. And yet here she was, smiling and learning and trying so hard to be useful. But Taiho was still not ready. He had told Lumi he wanted to try. He had told her he would learn. But deep inside, he was still afraid. What if he made a terrible mistake? What if he hurt her? What if he was not good enough? These fears aided him every night. He would lie awake in his bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if he was doing the right thing, wondering if he was capable of being what this child needed. Ju Nho noticed the change in his friend. Ju Nho was another human, an engineer who worked on the upper decks of the station. He and Taiho had known each other for 15 years. They had arrived on Hanel 7 together, two refugees from the same colonial disaster that had destroyed Taiho's family. Ju Nho had his own scars from that disaster. He had lost his parents and his younger brother, but he had dealt with his pain differently than Taiho. Where Taiho had closed himself off from the world, Junho had opened himself up. He made friends easily. He laughed often. He believed that the best way to honor the dead was to live fully. One evening, Junho came to Taiho's shop. He brought food and drinks, like he often did. But this time, he was not smiling. "I heard about the girl," Junho said, sitting down on a crate near the workbench. Taiho nodded. "Word travels fast on this station." "Word always travels fast when a human does something unusual," Junho said. "And taking in an alien orphan is definitely unusual." Taiho looked at Lumi, who was sitting in her usual corner, reading a book about basic mechanics that Taiho had given her. She was completely focused on the book, her lips moving silently as she sounded out the difficult words. "I have not taken her in," Taiho said quietly. "Not really. She is just staying here. For now." Junho raised an eyebrow. "For now?" "Taiho, she has been here for 2 weeks. She follows you everywhere. She calls you by name. She's learning your trade. If that is not taking her in, I do not know what is." Taiho did not answer. He just stared at his hands. Junho sighed and leaned forward. "Talk to me, my friend. What is happening in that complicated head of yours?" For a long moment, Taiho was silent. Then, slowly, he began to speak. "I am afraid," he admitted. "I am afraid of failing her. I am afraid of not being good enough. I am afraid that I will make a mistake and hurt her, the way I hurt everyone I have ever cared about." Junho listened without interrupting. "When I lost my family," Taiho continued, "I promised myself that I would never feel that kind of pain again. I closed off my heart. I focused on my work. Machines are simple. They do what you tell them to do. They do not leave you. They do not die in fires while you are too slow to save them." His voice cracked on the last words. "But now this little girl appears," Taiho said. "And she looks at me with those big eyes, and she asks me to fix her. And part of me wants to run away. Part of me wants to send her to someone else, someone better, someone who knows how to be a father." He looked up at Junho. "But then another part of me wants to try. Another part of me is tired of being alone. Another part of me looks at that child and sees." He stopped. He could not say it. "Sees what?" Junho asked gently. Taiho closed his eyes. "Sees a second chance," he whispered. "Sees something I thought was lost forever." Junho was quiet for a moment. Then he stood up and put his hand on Taiho's shoulder. "Do you know what I think?" Junho said. "I think that little girl is smarter than both of us. She crossed an entire galaxy to find you. She chose you, not anyone else. Not the best doctors or the kindest teachers or the richest merchants. She chose a broken mechanic who fixes things in a dirty shop on a forgotten station." He smiled at his old friend. "Maybe she sees something in you that you cannot see in yourself. Maybe she knows that the best people to fix broken things are the ones who have been broken themselves." Taiho opened his eyes. He looked at Junho, then at Lumi, then back at Junho. "She is not asking you to be perfect," Junho said. "She is asking you to try. That is all any child really wants. Someone who tries. Someone who shows up. Someone who does not give up." He picked up his bag and headed for the door. "Think about it, my friend. But do not think too long. That child deserves an answer. And so do you." After Junho left, Taiho sat alone in his shop for hours. The station grew quiet as the night cycle began. Lumi fell asleep in her corner, still holding her mechanics book, her head resting against a pile of soft claws. Taiho watched her sleep. He watched the gentle rise and fall of her chest. He watched the peaceful expression on her face. She trusted him. This tiny creature, who had every reason to trust no one, had put all of her hope in him. She believed he could fix her. She believed he could give her a family. Who was he to tell her she was wrong? The next day, a Caliph captain named Borm came to the shop. Borm was a tall, powerful female with gray skin and fierce yellow eyes. She was one of the few female traders in the docking ring, and she had earned her position through skill and toughness. Everyone respected her. Most people feared her, but she had always been kind to Taiho. He had fixed her ship's engine 3 times, and each time she had paid him double the usual price. Today, she was not here for repairs. She was here to talk. "I heard about your situation," Borm said, crossing all 4 of her arms across her chest. "The whole station is talking about it. The human mechanic and the little Velori orphan." Taiho sighed. "Does everyone know my business?" "On a station this small, everyone knows everyone's business," Borm said. "That is just how it is." She looked around the shop until her eyes found Lumi, who was organizing a box of spare parts in the corner. Lumi looked up at the large Caliph captain with wide eyes, but she did not look afraid. "Just curious." Borm turned back to Taiho. "I see she is still here. I thought you would have sent her away by now." "Sent her where?" Taiho asked. "She has no one. She has nowhere to go." Borm's expression softened slightly. "And you? What will you do with her?" Taiho did not answer. Borm uncrossed her arms and stepped closer to him. Despite her size and her fierce reputation, her voice was gentle when she spoke. "You humans are strange creatures," she said. "You build weapons that can destroy planets, but you use them to protect the weak. You have bodies that break easily, but you refuse to stay down when you fall. You fix things that no one else can fix, and you do not even realize how special that makes you." She pointed at Lumi with one of her large gray fingers. That child came looking for a human because she believed humans could fix anything. And you know what? She was right. I have seen humans fix things that my people said were impossible. I have seen you turn enemies into friends. I have seen you heal wounds that were older than my grandmother. She leaned down so that her yellow eyes were level with Taiho's. You are afraid of this, I know. You are afraid of loving someone again because you do not want to lose them. But let me tell you something, human. Fear is not a reason to say no. Fear is a signal that something matters. If you were not afraid, then this would not mean anything. She straightened up and headed for the door. Think about that, mechanic. And when you are done thinking, do the right thing. I know you will. Humans always do. She left the shop without looking back. Taiho stood in the middle of his shop, surrounded by broken machines and scattered tools. Lumi walked over to him, still holding a spare part in her small blue hands. Why do all the aliens talk to you about me? Lumi asked. Taiho looked down at her. Because they care about you, he said. And they care about me, even if they have strange ways of showing it. Lumi thought about this for a moment. Do you care about me? She asked. The question was simple, innocent, direct. Taiho felt his heart beat faster. He felt all of his fears rise up inside him, telling him to stay safe, telling him to keep his distance, telling him not to get hurt again. But he also felt something else. Something stronger. Something that had been growing inside him for the past 2 weeks, ever since a small blue girl walked into his shop and asked him to fix her. Yes, Taiho said quietly. I care about you. Lumi's silver eyes grew bright. Does that mean you will keep me? Taiho knelt down so that their faces were at the same level. Lumi slept on a small bed in the back room of Taiho's shop that night. It was just an old mattress on the floor, covered with blankets that smelled like machine oil. But Lumi did not seem to mind. She curled up under the blankets like a small animal finding shelter from a storm. And she was asleep within minutes. Taiho did not sleep at all. He sat at his workbench for hours, staring at nothing, thinking about what the little girl had said. He thought about her question, the question that had shaken him to his core. Could you fix this? He was still sitting there when the morning cycle began. The lights in the station changed from dim night mode to bright day mode. The sounds of people walking and talking filled the hallways outside his shop. Taiho finally stood up. His back hurt from sitting so long. His eyes were tired from not sleeping. But he knew what he had to do. He needed help. He needed someone who understood Valori culture, someone who could explain things to him, someone who could help him understand what Lumi really wanted. He knew exactly who to call. Yuna was a Valori woman who worked as a translator on HAL 7. She was older than Lumi by many years, with the same pale blue skin and silver eyes, but her face was wise and calm. She spoke 15 languages perfectly and helped aliens and humans understand each other when words were not enough. Taiho had fixed her translation device 3 times over the years. She always paid him with home-cooked Valori food, which Taiho secretly loved but would never admit. He sent her a message, and she arrived at his shop within the hour. This is unusual, Yuna said as she walked through the door. You never call anyone, Taiho. You never ask for help. What happened? Taiho pointed to the back room. There is a child. A Valori child. She came to my shop last night. Yuna's silver eyes widened. A child? Where are her parents? She has none, Taiho said. She came from an orphanage on Valori Prime. She traveled here alone, hiding on cargo ships. She's maybe 6 or 7 years old. Yuna put a hand over her mouth. For a moment, she could not speak. Then she walked quickly to the back room and looked inside. Lumi was awake now. She was sitting on the mattress, still holding her piece of old cloth. When she saw Yuna, her eyes grew big with surprise. She had not seen another Valori since leaving her home planet. Yuna knelt down in front of the little girl. She spoke softly in the Valori language, words that Taiho could not understand. Lumi answered in the same language, her voice small and shy. They talked for a long time. Taiho waited outside, listening to the sounds of their conversation, but understanding nothing. He felt useless. He felt like a mechanic without tools. Finally, Yuna came out of the back room. Her face was sad, but also thoughtful. "She told me everything," Yuna said. "She told me about the orphanage. She told me about how she hid on the cargo ship. She told me about her journey here." "And?" Taiho asked. "What does she really want?" "She asked me to give her a father." "But how can I do that? I am not her father. I cannot just become her father." Yuna looked at him with her calm silver eyes. "Actually," she said slowly, "in Valori culture, you can." Taiho blinked. "What do you mean?" Yuna sat down on a chair near the workbench. She folded her hands in her lap and spoke carefully. "Humans think of family as blood," she said. "You believe that parents and children are connected by biology, by birth, but Valori do not think this way. For us, family is about choice. It is about decision." Taiho listened, not sure where this was going. "In our culture," Yuna continued, "anyone can become a parent to a child. There is no need for blood connection. There is no need for complicated laws or papers. If an adult chooses to be a parent and speaks the vow of adoption, then they become a parent. It is that simple." Taiho shook his head. "That cannot be right. It cannot be that simple." "But it is," Yuna said. "For Valori, the bond of choice is stronger than the bond of blood. When you choose someone, when you decide to love them and care for them forever, that is the most powerful connection possible. It is more real than any biological link." She paused and looked toward the back room where Lumi was waiting. "When that little girl asks you to fix her problem, she is not asking you to do something impossible. She is asking you to make a choice. She is asking you to decide if you will be her father." Taiho felt his heart beat faster. "But I don't know anything about being a father. I have never had children. I don't know how to raise a child. Do any parents truly know?" Yuna asked, "Do you think the first time a human holds their newborn baby, they know exactly what to do? No, they learn. They make mistakes. They try again. That is what being a parent is." Taiho was quiet for a long time. He looked at his hands, the hands that had fixed 1,000 broken things. He had always been good at repairs. He had always known how to make things work again, but this was different. This was not a machine. This was a living being with a heart and a soul and a whole future ahead of her. "What if I fail?" he asked quietly. "What if I cannot do this? What if I hurt her?" Yuna stood up and walked over to him. She put her hand on his shoulder. "Taiho," she said gently, "you are thinking like a mechanic. You think there is a right way and a wrong way to do things. You think that if you make one mistake, everything will break. But children are not machines. They do not need perfect care. They just need someone who tries. Someone who loves them. Someone who does not give up." She smiled at him, a rare and soft smile. "That little girl crossed an entire galaxy to find you. She believes in you. She believes you can fix anything. Maybe you should believe in yourself too." Taiho felt something shift inside him. It was a strange feeling, like a door opening that had been closed for a very long time. He thought about his past again. He thought about the colonial disaster on his home planet 20 years ago. He thought about the fire and the smoke and the screaming. He thought about his wife and his daughter lost in the chaos. He had never talked about it. He had buried that pain deep inside him, locked it away, and focused on his work. Fixing things was easy. Feeling things was hard. But now this little girl was standing in his shop, asking him to feel again. Asking him to open that door. Asking him to take a chance on love. "I need to think," Taiho said. "This is too big. I need time." Yuna nodded. "Of course. Take your time. But do not take too long. That child has waited her whole life for someone to choose her. Every day you wait is another day. She wonders if she is worthy of love." The words hit Taiho like a punch to the chest. Yuna left the shop, but her words stayed behind. They echoed in Taiho's mind all day long. He tried to work on his repairs, but his hands would not cooperate. He kept making mistakes. He kept dropping tools. His mind was somewhere else entirely. Lumi spent the day watching him. She did not say much. She just sat in the corner, her big silver eyes following him wherever he went. Sometimes she would pick up a tool and study it carefully. Sometimes she would ask what something was called. "That is a wrench," Taiho would say. "Wrench," Lumi would repeat, saying the word slowly. Learning it. "That is a circuit tester. Circuit tester." She was learning the names of his tools faster than she was learning the names of foods. Taiho found this strange, but also somehow touching. That evening, a customer came to the shop. It was a Kelith trader with a broken navigation device. The Kelith were a large species with gray skin and 4 arms. They could be scary to look at, but most of them were kind and fair in business. Taiho took the navigation device and began to examine it. The Kelith trader sat down to wait, but then the trader noticed Lumi sitting in the corner. His large yellow eyes blinked with surprise. "Who is this small creature?" The trader asked. Taiho hesitated. He did not know how to answer, but Lumi answered for him. "I am Lumi," she said, standing up straight and speaking clearly. "I am staying with Taiho. He's going to fix me." The Kelith trader looked confused. "Fix you? You do not look broken to me." Lumi shook her head. "Not outside broken. Inside broken. But Taiho can fix anything. Everyone says so." The trader looked at Taiho with new interest. "Is this true? You can fix inside broken things too?" Taiho felt his face grow warm. I am just a mechanic. I fix machines. I do not fix." He stopped. He did not know what to say. The Kelith trader laughed, a deep rumbling sound. "Humans," he said with admiration. "You are always so humble. You fix wars. You fix treaties. You fix relationships between species that have hated each other for 1,000 years. And now you say you cannot fix one small child?" He stood up and patted Taiho on the back with one of his 4 hands. "I have seen humans do impossible things," the trader said. "I have seen them bring peace to planets that knew only war. I have seen them build bridges between species that could not even speak to each other. If any creature in this galaxy can fix that child's heart, it is a human." He picked up his navigation device, even though Taiho had not finished fixing it yet. "I will come back tomorrow," the trader said. "You have more important work to do tonight." And with that, he left. Taiho stood in the middle of his shop, surrounded by broken machines and scattered tools. Lumi looked up at him from the corner, her silver eyes full of questions. What did he mean? Lumi asked. "What important work?" Taiho looked at her for a long moment. He thought about Yuna's words. He thought about the Kelith trader's words. He thought about everything that had happened in the last day. And slowly, very slowly, he felt something change inside him. Maybe they were right. The frontier station Hanel 7 floated in the darkness between 2 dying stars. It was not a beautiful place. The metal walls were old and covered with rust. The air always smelled like engine oil and recycled oxygen. Ships came and went at all hours, carrying traders, refugees, and travelers who had nowhere else to go. In the lower levels of the station, far from the fancy restaurants and clean hotels of the upper decks, there was a small repair shop. The sign above the door was written in 12 different languages, but they all said the same thing: Taiho's Repairs. If it's broken, I can fix it. Taiho was a human man of 42 years. He had black hair that was turning gray at the sides and hands that were always covered in grease. He wore the same brown jacket every day, and he never smiled much. But everyone on the station knew him. Everyone trusted him. He could fix anything. This was not just a rumor. It was a fact that had spread across 3 star sectors. When the Keleth traders broke their navigation systems, they came to Taiho. When the Valori diplomats cracked their translator devices, they came to Taiho. When the old station commander's antique clock stopped working after 200 years, he came to Taiho. And Taiho fixed them all. He never asked many questions. He never charged too much money. He just looked at the broken thing, nodded his head slowly, and got to work. Some aliens believed he had magic in his hands. Others thought humans were simply born with the ability to repair anything. Taiho never explained. He just did his job. On this particular evening, the station was quiet. Most of the traders had left for the night markets on the upper decks. The hallways were empty, except for the occasional cleaning robot rolling by. Taiho was alone in his shop, bent over a cracked fuel line from a small cargo ship. The welding torch hissed in his hand. Blue sparks flew into the air. He was focused completely on his work, the way he always was. The rest of the universe did not exist when Taiho was fixing something. That was when he heard the footsteps. They were soft. Too soft to be an adult. Taiho did not look up at first. Children sometimes wandered into his shop by accident, curious about the strange machines and glowing tools. He waited for the footsteps to go away, but they did not go away. Taiho finally looked up. His welding torch flickered and died in his hand. Standing in the doorway was a small alien child. She was a Valori, one of the pale blue species from the outer rim planets. Her skin was the color of a winter sky, and her eyes were large and silver, like 2 small moons. She was thin, too thin, and her clothes were torn and dirty. She was clutching a piece of old cloth against her chest, like it was the most important thing in the universe. She could not have been more than 6 or 7 years old in human terms. Taiho stared at her. She stared back at him. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the hum of machines and the distant rumble of ships docking above. Then the little alien girl opened her mouth and spoke. Her voice was small and rough, like she had not used it in a long time. She spoke in broken common, the shared language of the galaxy. "Sir," she said, "I don't have a father. Could you fix this?" Taiho's hands froze. The welding torch slipped from his fingers and clattered onto the workbench. He did not pick it up. He had heard many strange requests in his years as a mechanic. He had been asked to fix impossible things. Ancient weapons. Alien technology that no human had ever seen before. Machines that scientists said could never work again. But no one had ever asked him this. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. The little girl just stood there, waiting, her silver eyes full of hope. "What is your name?" Taiho finally asked. His voice came out rough and quiet. "Lumi," the girl said. "Lumi?" Taiho repeated slowly. "Where did you come from? Where are your parents?" Lumi shook her head. "I have no parents. I never had parents. I came from the children's place on Valori Prime, the place for children nobody wants." Taiho felt something twist inside his chest. He knew about those places. Every species had them. Orphanages, shelters, places where unwanted children waited for someone to take them home. Most of them waited forever. "How did you get here?" he asked. Panel 7 is very far from Valori Prime. Lumi looked down at her feet. I hid on a ship. A big cargo ship. I stayed in the boxes with the food. Nobody saw me. I traveled for many days. Maybe many weeks. I don't know. Taiho could not believe what he was hearing. A child, traveling alone across the galaxy, hiding in cargo containers, surviving on whatever scrap she could find. It should have been impossible. It should have killed her. But here she was, standing in his shop, asking him to fix something that could not be fixed. Why? Taiho asked. Why did you come all this way? Why did you come to me? Lumi looked up at him again. Her silver eyes were serious and steady. The older children at the children's place told me stories, she said. They told me about humans. They said humans can fix anything. Anything in the whole galaxy. They said if something is broken, a human can make it work again. She took a small step forward, still clutching her old cloth. I am broken, she said simply. I have no father, no mother, no family. The other children at the place had visitors sometimes, people who wanted to take them home. But nobody ever came for me. Nobody ever wanted me. I waited for 5 years, but nobody came. Taiho felt his throat tighten. He tried to swallow, but it was hard. So I decided to find a human, Lumi continued. I asked the traders who came to Valori Prime. I asked them where I could find the best human fixer. They all said the same name. They said Taiho. They said you can fix anything. She looked around the shop at all the machines and tools and half-repaired devices. If you can fix all of these things, she said, then maybe you can fix me too. Maybe you can give me a father. Maybe you can give me a family. Taiho stood completely still. He did not know what to say. He did not know what to do. He was a mechanic. He fixed engines and computers and broken machines. He did not fix children. He did not fix hearts. But the little girl just stood there, waiting for his answer, and Taiho realized that she had crossed an entire galaxy for this moment. She had risked everything, traveled alone through the cold darkness of space, survived things that would have broken most adults, all because someone had told her that humans could fix anything. And now she was here, standing in his shop, asking him to prove it. Taiho slowly sat down on his work stool. He rubbed his face with his greasy hands. He looked at the little blue girl with the silver eyes and the torn clothes and the desperate hope in her face. I don't know if I can fix this, he said quietly. This is not like a machine. This is not something I can repair with tools. Lumi's face fell. The hope in her eyes began to fade, like a light slowly going out. But, Taiho said quickly, but maybe we can talk about it. Maybe you can stay here tonight. It's late. You must be hungry. When did you last eat? Lumi thought about this for a moment. 2 days ago, I think. I found some fruit in a box. Taiho closed his eyes. 2 days. This child had not eaten in 2 days. He stood up and walked to the back of his shop, where he had a small kitchen area. He opened a cabinet and found some bread and dried meat and a container of soup that he could heat up. Sit down, he said to Lumi, pointing to a chair near his workbench. Eat something first. Then we will talk. Lumi walked slowly to the chair and sat down. She was so small that her feet did not touch the floor. She watched Taiho prepare the food with her big silver eyes, following his every movement. When Taiho brought her the food, she looked at it for a long moment. Then she looked up at him. Are you going to fix me? She asked. Taiho did not answer. He just watched her eat, his heart heavy with a weight he had not felt in many years. He thought about his own past. He thought about the family he had lost. He thought about the walls he had built around his heart, the walls that kept everyone out, the walls that kept him safe from ever being hurt again. And he thought about this little girl who had crossed the stars to find him. Eat, he said softly. We will figure this out. I promise. It was not an answer, but for now, it was enough. 3 weeks had passed since Taiho made his decision. 3 weeks of learning. 3 weeks of growing. 3 weeks of slowly becoming something neither of them had expected. But there was still one thing missing. One final step that needed to be taken. The Valori vow of adoption. Yuna had explained it to Taiho many times. In Valori culture, the vow was sacred. It was more than just words. It was a promise made to the universe itself. When an adult spoke the vow to a child, they were declaring that they would protect and love and guide that child for the rest of their lives. There was no going back. No changing your mind. No undoing what was done. Taiho had been practicing the words in secret. Every night, after Lumi fell asleep, he would sit at his workbench and whisper the ancient Valori phrases. The language was difficult. The sounds were strange in his human mouth. But he kept trying, over and over, until he could say each word perfectly. Yuna had been impressed when she heard him practice. "Your pronunciation is almost perfect," she said. "Most humans cannot even speak basic Valori, but you sound like you were born on our planet." "I want to do this right," Taiho said. "I want her to know that I am serious, that I am committed, that I am choosing her with my whole heart." Yuna smiled. She already knows Taiho, but the vow will make it official. It will give her something to hold on to forever. The day of the vow came on a quiet evening. The station was calm. Most of the traders had finished their business and gone to the rest areas. The hallways were empty, and still. Taiho had cleaned the shop for the first time in years. He had moved all the broken machines to the back room. He had swept the floor and wiped down the workbenches. He had even put on a clean shirt, one without any grease stains. Junho and Yuna came to witness the vow. Borum came too, though she stood in the corner with her arms crossed, pretending she did not care. But Taiho noticed that her yellow eyes were softer than usual. Lumi stood in the middle of the shop, wearing a new dress that Yuna had bought for her. It was pale blue, like her skin, with small silver stars embroidered on the edges. She looked nervous but happy. Her silver eyes kept moving around the room, looking at all the people who had come to see this moment. "Are you ready?" Yuna asked Taiho quietly. Taiho nodded. His heart was beating fast. His hands were shaking slightly. But he was ready. He had never been more ready for anything in his life. He walked to the center of the shop and knelt down in front of Lumi. Their eyes met, and for a moment, everything else disappeared. It was just the two of them, standing at the edge of a new beginning. "Lumi," Taiho said, his voice steady despite his nerves. "You came to me with a question. You asked me if I could fix you. You asked me if I could give you a father." Lumi nodded, her eyes growing bright with tears. "I am not a perfect man," Taiho continued. "I have made many mistakes in my life. I have lost people I loved. I have closed my heart to the world for a very long time. But you opened it again. You showed me that it is never too late to love. It is never too late to try." He took a deep breath and began to speak in Valori. The words flowed from his mouth, each syllable clear and precise. He had practiced for weeks, and now every word was perfect. The vow spoke of protection. It spoke of guidance. It spoke of love that would never end, not even in death. It spoke of a bond that was stronger than blood, stronger than law, stronger than anything in the universe. When Taiho finished speaking, there was silence in the shop. Yuna had tears running down her blue cheeks. Junho was smiling widely. Even Borum looked moved, though she quickly turned her face away so no one could see. Lumi stared at Taiho with her big silver eyes. She seemed frozen, unable to believe what had just happened. "Is it real?" she whispered. "Am I really? You are my daughter now." Taiho said softly. From this moment forward, forever. Lumi threw herself into his arms. She hugged him tighter than she had ever hugged anyone. Her small body shook with sobs, but they were happy sobs. Joyful sobs. The sobs of a child who had finally found what she had been searching for her whole life. Taiho held her close. He felt her heart beating against his chest. He felt her tears soaking into his clean shirt. And he felt something he had not felt in 20 years. Peace. The weeks that followed were not easy. Being a father was hard. It was much harder than Taiho had expected. Lumi was smart and curious, but she was also scared and damaged. She had nightmares almost every night. She would wake up screaming, calling out for help, convinced that she was still alone on the cargo ship with nothing to eat and nowhere to go. Taiho would run to her room and hold her until she calmed down. He would rock her gently and whisper that she was safe, that she was home, that she would never be alone again. Sometimes it took hours for her to fall back asleep. Sometimes Taiho would stay with her until morning, sitting beside her bed, watching over her like a guardian. He was exhausted all the time. His work suffered. Repairs that used to take him 1 day now took 3. Customers complained, but Taiho did not care. He had more important things to worry about now. There were other challenges too. Lumi did not know how to behave like a normal child. She had never been to school. She had never played with other children. She had never had toys or books or anything that was just hers. Taiho tried to teach her, but he often felt lost. He knew how to explain machines and engines. He did not know how to explain why the sky was blue or why people sometimes cried when they were happy. But he tried. Every day, he tried, and slowly, Lumi began to change. She laughed more often. She asked more questions. She started to explore the station, meeting other children and making friends. She was still shy, still careful, but she was no longer hiding in corners. She was no longer afraid of the world. The other aliens on the station watched this change with wonder. They had seen Taiho before, the lonely mechanic who never smiled. And now they saw him with a little blue girl on his shoulders, laughing as she pointed at the stars through the station windows. Humans really can fix anything, the traders would say to each other, even broken hearts. One evening, about 2 months after the vow, Lumi came to Taiho with something in her hands. It was a small metal object, roughly shaped and poorly welded. It looked like a star, but a crooked, uneven star. What is this? Taiho asked. I made it, Lumi said proudly. I used the scrap metal from the back room, and the small welding tool you showed me. I wanted to make something for you. Taiho took the metal star in his hands. It was not beautiful. It was rough and asymmetrical, and clearly made by someone who had never welded before. But to Taiho, it was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. Do you like it? Lumi asked nervously. It is not very good. I know it is not perfect, but I wanted to give you something, because you gave me so much. Taiho felt his eyes grow wet. He blinked quickly, trying to hide the tears. It is perfect, he said. It is absolutely perfect. He hugged Lumi tightly, holding the metal star against his chest. You know, Taiho said, when you first came to my shop, you asked me to fix you. You said you were broken because you had no father. Lumi nodded, her face pressed against his shirt. But I think you had it wrong, Taiho continued. You were not the broken one. I was. I had been broken for 20 years, ever since I lost my family. I had closed myself off. I had stopped feeling. I had stopped living. He pulled back and looked into her silver eyes. You came here asking me to fix you. But really, you fixed me. You opened my heart again. You gave me a reason to wake up in the morning. You made me believe that love was still possible. Lumi smiled, a bright and beautiful smile that lit up her whole face. "So we fixed each other?" she asked. Tae-ho nodded. "Yes, we fixed each other." That night, Tae-ho hung the metal star above his workbench. It caught the light from his tools and sparkled like a real star. Every time he looked at it, he remembered the moment his daughter gave it to him. He remembered the pride in her eyes, the love in her heart, and he knew, without any doubt, that he had made the right choice. Outside the shop, the universe continued to turn. Ships came and went. Traders argued and bargained. Aliens of every species passed through the station on their way to somewhere else. But inside the small repair shop on the lower levels of HAL 7, there was something rare and precious. Something that could not be bought or sold or traded. There was a family. Tae-ho looked at his daughter, who was now reading a more advanced book about engine repair. She was lying on the floor, her legs kicking in the air, completely absorbed in the technical diagrams. "Appa," she said suddenly, using the Korean word for father that Tae-ho had taught her. "What is a quantum stabilizer?" Tae-ho smiled. It was a real smile, warm and genuine. The kind of smile he had not smiled in 20 years. "Come here," he said. "I will show you." Lumi jumped up and ran to his side. Together, father and daughter bent over the workbench, their heads close together as Tae-ho began to explain. And in that moment, everything was exactly as it should be. The story of Tae-ho and Lumi spread across the galaxy like fire spreading through dry grass. It moved from station to station, from planet to planet, from species to species. Traders told it in bars. Diplomats whispered it in meeting rooms. Children heard it from their parents at bedtime. The story changed a little each time it was told. Some versions made Tae-ho a legendary hero who had saved 1,000 worlds. Other versions made Lumi a princess from a destroyed kingdom. But the heart of the story always stayed the same. A broken child asked a human to fix her. And he did. 6 months after the adoption, the first stranger appeared at Tae-ho's shop. It was a young Kelith boy, no more than 10 years old. He had gray skin and only 2 arms, which meant he was considered deformed by his people. Among the Kelith, having fewer than 4 arms was a mark of shame. The boy had run away from his home planet. He had hidden on ships, just like Lumi had done. And he had come to HAL 7 with one question. "Are you the human who fixes broken children?" The boy asked. Tae-ho stared at him. He did not know what to say. Lu I appeared at his side. She was taller now, stronger, more confident. The scared little girl who had arrived 6 months ago was gone. In her place was a young person who knew exactly who she was and where she belonged. "Yes," Lumi said to the Kelith boy. "He is. What is your name?" "No," the boy said. Lumi smiled and held out her hand. "Come in, Guno. Are you hungry?" Tae-ho watched as his daughter led the boy into the shop. He watched as she gave him food and water. He watched as she talked to him gently, asking questions, listening to his story, and he realized that something had changed. Something bigger than he had expected. He called an emergency meeting that night. Junho came. Yuna came. Borm came. They all sat in the shop, looking at the 2 children who were now sleeping in the back room. "What do I do?" Tae-ho asked. "I cannot adopt every orphan in the galaxy. I am just one man. I have one small shop. I barely have enough money to feed myself and Lumi." Junho thought for a moment. "Maybe you do not have to do it alone. What do you mean?" Junho leaned forward. "You are not the only human on this station, Tae-ho. You are not the only person with a heart. There are others who might want to help. Others who might want to give these children a home." Yuna nodded. "And there are aliens, too. Many of us have lost children. Many of us have empty homes and hearts full of love that has nowhere to go. Perhaps we could help as well." Borm crossed her arms. I know traders who would support this cause. They could bring supplies, food, medicine, credits. They believe in what you have done here. They want to see more of it." Taiho looked around at his friends. These people had come into his life slowly, one by one, over the past 6 months. He had not even realized that they were his friends until this moment. "You would all help me?" he asked. "Of course," Junho said. "That is what families do." And so it began. Within a year, Taiho's small repair shop had become something much larger. The empty rooms on either side of the shop were converted into living spaces for children. The hallway outside became a playground. The old storage area became a school. Children came from all over the galaxy. Valori children with silver eyes. Calith children with fewer arms than they should have. Human children who had lost their parents to war and disaster. Small alien species that Taiho had never even heard of before. Each child arrived with the same question that Lumi had asked. "Can you fix me?" And each time, Taiho gave the same answer. "I can try." Not all of the children stayed with Taiho. Many of them were adopted by other families on the station. Yuna took in 3 Valori orphans. Junho adopted a young human boy who reminded him of his lost brother. Even Borm, the tough trader who claimed to hate children, found herself caring for a small alien girl who refused to leave her side. But the repair shop remained the center of everything. It was where the children came first. It was where they learned that they were not broken. It was where they discovered that someone in the universe cared about them. Lumi grew up in that shop. She learned to fix machines as well as her father. She learned to speak 7 languages. She learned to welcome frightened children and help them feel safe. When she turned 16 in human years, she became Taiho's official assistant. She wore her own brown jacket, covered in the same grease stains that covered her father's. She had her own tools, her own workbench, her own customers who asked for her by name. "You are becoming a better mechanic than me," Taiho said one day. Lumi smiled. "I had a good teacher." The fame of Hanel 7 continued to grow. Aliens across the galaxy began to call it the Station of Second Chances. Ships would make special trips just to drop off supplies and donations. Famous musicians performed free concerts to raise money for the children. Political leaders made speeches about the human mechanic who had started a revolution of love. Taiho never paid much attention to the fame. He was too busy fixing things: engines, computers, broken machines of every kind, and of course, broken hearts. One evening, when Lumi was 17, she came to Taiho with a serious expression on her face. "Appa," she said, "I need to talk to you." Taiho put down his tools. "What is it?" Lumi sat down on a crate near his workbench. She was quiet for a moment, gathering her thoughts. "I have been thinking about my journey here," she said. "About how I crossed the galaxy alone when I was just a small child. About how I survived on hope and the belief that someone could fix me." Taiho nodded, listening. "And I keep thinking about all the children who are still out there," Lumi continued. "Children who have not heard the stories about you. Children who do not know that there is a place where they can be safe. Children who are dying in cargo ships and hiding in alleys and giving up hope." Her silver eyes met his. "I want to find them," Lumi said. "I want to travel the galaxy and search for the broken ones. I want to bring them here, to you, to us. I want to show them that they are not alone." Taiho felt his heart swell with pride and fear at the same time. Pride because his daughter had become such a brave and caring person. Fear because the galaxy was dangerous and he did not want to lose her. "That is a very big goal," he said carefully. "I know," Lumi said, "but someone has to do it. The children cannot come to us if they do not know we exist. Someone has to go to them first." She reached out and took Taiho's hand in hers. "You fix me, Appa." You gave me a family and a home and a purpose. Now let me do the same for others. Let me be the one who finds them. Let me be the one who brings them home." Taiho looked at his daughter. He remembered the tiny, starving girl who had appeared in his doorway years ago. He remembered her question, a question that had changed everything. "Sir, I don't have a father. Could you fix this?" And now that same girl was asking him for permission to save others, to continue the work he had started, to carry it forward into the future. Taiho squeezed her hand. "I always knew this day would come," he said. "I knew you would grow up. I knew you would want to help others. I just did not think it would happen so soon." Lumi smiled. "I learned from the best." Taiho stood up and hugged his daughter. He held her close, the way he had held her during all those nights when she woke up screaming from nightmares. But this time, there was no fear, only love. "Go," he said. "Find them. Bring them home. I will be here, waiting. I will always be here." Lumi pulled back and looked at him with tears in her silver eyes. Happy tears. Grateful tears. "I love you, Appa," she said. "I love you too," Taiho said. "My daughter, my greatest repair." And so Lumi left Hanel 7 and began her journey across the galaxy. She traveled to forgotten planets and hidden stations. She searched orphanages and refugee camps and the dark corners where no one else would look. Everywhere she went, she asked the same question. "Are you broken? Do you need fixing?" And when the children said yes, she told them about a human mechanic on a small station who could fix anything. She told them about a place where they would be loved. She told them about a family waiting to welcome them home. The children followed her. By the dozens, by the hundreds. They came from every corner of the galaxy, carried by hope and the belief that humans could fix anything. And back on Hanel 7, Taiho waited with open arms. He was old now. His hair was completely gray. His hands were not as steady as they used to be. But his heart was fuller than it had ever been. Every day, new children arrived at his shop. Every day, he greeted them with a smile and a warm meal. Every day, he looked into their frightened eyes and said the words that Lumi had taught him to say. "Welcome home. You are not broken. You are just looking for your family. And now you have found us." The galaxy had learned many things about humans over the centuries. They learned that humans were stubborn. They learned that humans were brave. They learned that humans would fight to the death for the people they loved. But the most important thing the galaxy learned was this. When a child asks a human to fix something, they do not stop until it is done. They do not give up. They do not walk away. They keep trying, keep working, keep loving, until the broken thing is whole. Again, because that is what humans do. They fix things, even the things that everyone else says are unfixable, even the things that everyone else has given up on, even the hearts of children who have never known love, especially those on the day that Taiho finally closed his eyes for the last time, surrounded by his daughter and his grandchildren and hundreds of people he had